Hogwarts Legacy may be getting a TV show, the Assassin's Creed train keeps on rolling, Battlefield single player is returning, and you're probably never going to play this game. My name is Josh, and we're going to be talking about all that and more as we discuss what's been happening in gaming lately. If you haven't already heard, Hogwarts Legacy is a massive success, and fans are loving it, myself included. In just over 2 weeks, the game has sold over 12 million copies and earned over 850 million in sales. And the game hasn't even been released on previous gen consoles or Nintendo Switch. Just to put that in comparison, Elden Ring just recently surpassed 20 million copies sold. And we all know how fantastic that game is, not to mention the numerous awards that it's received. Now, that's not trying to compare the two games in any way because Elden Ring is truly a gem, but just simply to show that when good content is being put forward, the Wizarding World is still a massively lucrative IP with an incredibly supportive fan base. If you put something out there that the Harry Potter fans enjoy, then it is going to sell and it is going to do well. Warner Brothers have said they are, quote, very pleased with the game's launch and the engagement of the community. With Warner Brothers Games president having this to say, the player engagement is spectacular. So far, we've tracked over 152 million hours played, 173 million magical pots grown, 115 million potions brewed, and 556 million dark wizards defeated. Honestly, I have to commend Avalanche for the game. After playing a lot of the game myself, it truly is a fantastic experience if you're a fan of the Wizarding World, and it's just a solid game in many ways. The combat is really fun. I enjoy just exploring the castle and the world at large, and there's just so many fun things to do, and for fans like myself, it just really is a game that people have been waiting for, so I'm very happy to see that it's doing well. Now, I can't lie, I did have my worries about the game before it was released, but like I said, I'm just pleasantly surprised that the game is doing so well, that it is such a solid game. Sure, there are some features there that we would love to see, Quidditch being one of those, but the game is a lot of fun. Now, recently it was mentioned that Avalanche does not currently have any plans for DLC for the game. However, just based on how successful the game has been, I feel like there's absolutely no way we won't get some sort of additional DLC for the game. Whether that be, like I said, Quidditch or additional story missions, something will be eventually added to this game in the form of DLC, because I just don't see nothing being a possibility for this game. Or at least I feel like there'll be some sort of sequel that is in the works, if not being developed obviously right now, just being planned and talked about for sure. This IP, that being the Harry Potter and Wizarding World IP, and this franchise really now is just too much of a moneymaker to not continue to add on to what we already have. Now, as mentioned previously, the last gen versions of the game, that being the PS4 and Xbox One and the Nintendo Switch version, have not even been yet released. With release dates of April for the PS4 and Xbox One and then July for the Nintendo Switch, I feel like after those players get their hands on the game, then they might go ahead and announce some sort of plans for DLC in the future. Because obviously they wouldn't want those players to feel left out or feeling like, they are being left behind as, hey, here's some new DLC and you guys just got your hands on the game. So I feel like after that, we may start hearing some rumors and some news about some additional content for the game, which I hope is true. Because of the game's massive success and how pleased Warner Brothers have been with the success of the game, it does in fact seem that they have big plans for Hogwarts Legacy. But not just in the gaming space. As reported by the entertainment site Giant Freaking Robot, sources say that Hogwarts Legacy is reportedly going to get its own TV show adaptation produced for HBO. Now, the sources say that this series is still in the early phases of development, so it may be a long while before we hear any solid information on the project. If this is true, this could launch an entirely new wave of projects for the Wizarding World and the Harry Potter IP. I think HBO would be a fantastic landing spot for the series, especially giving the faithful adaptation that The Last of Us has received so far. And it would be a perfect place for us to explore some of that dark magic of the Wizarding World, just like we got to do in the game. Ubisoft is reportedly tripling down on the Assassin's Creed franchise. Back in September 2022, they revealed that they were currently 4 games for the franchise in development. That being Mirage, codename Red, the one set in Japan, codename Hex, and codename Jade, as well as a multiplayer game, Project Invictus, and a VR title, Project Nexus. Yes, you heard that right, 6 Assassin's Creed titles. Well, according to sources close to Insider Gaming, it looks like there may be at least 3 more fully fledged titles being planned, with those being in the conceptual and prototype phases. The names of those being codename Nebula, Raid, and Echoes. Each of the 3 new titles are being developed by different studios and are said to have much different play styles. Project Nebula will reportedly span across 3 different settings: India, the Aztec Empire, and the Mediterranean. It is being developed by Ubisoft Sofia, who previously produced Assassin's Creed 3 and Rogue. Now, Project Raid will reportedly be a free-to-play 4-player co-op title that will feature PvE and features characters from the Assassin's Creed universe. And finally, Project Echoes will reportedly be a multiplayer title as well, and it's being developed by the Ubisoft studio who helped develop the multiplayer portion of previous Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell titles. The source also reported that Assassin's Creed is looking to return to the annual release cycle, with the first 2 games in the lineup being AC Mirage and Codename Red, which is the game set in feudal Japan. And based on a lot of the information I've seen about Assassin's Creed Mirage, it sounds like that game is also going back to some of the basics that the original Assassin's Creed games got right. While I'm not sure the annual release cycle is the best idea for Ubisoft to go back to, hopefully at least with AC Mirage and Codename Red, it looks like the game is hopefully getting back to some of those foundations of Assassin's Creed that made it so great. For the other games in the lineup, I guess we'll just have to wait and see when we get some more information. It's being reported that EA DICE is joining Ridgeline to create new single-player Battlefield experiences for upcoming games. Battlefield 2042's lack of a campaign mode was a real disappointment to fans, and it's good to hear that they are going to go back to adding in a single-player campaign once again, because in the past, Battlefield has delivered some incredible campaign experiences, especially some great story-driven titles with the Bad Company series. Currently, it looks like EA DICE is working to put together a single-player team that is going to work hand-in-hand with Ridgeline to create these single-player campaigns, which I think is great to hear. EA DICE's general manager had this to say: "Our decision to build out our single-player team here at DICE is a proactive approach that arms our global teams with the resources they need early on as we look ahead to the next Battlefield experience. Now, we're able to expand opportunities and benefit from new talent that will help Ridgeline write the next chapter for the franchise." And if you want me to be honest, guys, all I truly want is a Battlefield Bad Company 3. I don't even care if the game has multiplayer. I just want another campaign with those characters because I think it would be fantastic. However, those are some of my favorite Battlefield games of all time. So give me Bad Company 3 and do it correctly, and you have me sold. And while we're on the topic of EA, as you likely know, they have been trimming back the edges recently with cancellations of both Battlefield and Apex Legends mobile games. Well, it seems like the cutbacks are continuing, with a recent report from Kotaku stating that over 200 QA testers at the EA Baton Rouge office were abruptly laid off Tuesday morning. These testers were primarily focused on the free-to-play BR, Apex Legends. According to reports, the news sounds like it came as a real shock, as it happened via an unscheduled Zoom call that even some full-time managers were unaware of. Based on the email sent to Kotaku, it sounds like playtesting will be spread out amongst other teams across the US and no longer concentrated in one location. While this is not really a surprising story to hear, it always sucks to hear about people losing their jobs, getting laid off, things like that. Hopefully they can find some new employment, different places, and hopefully they'll get scooped back up really soon. Moving on to some rapid review items and some recently released games, let's get started with Starfield. According to VGC's Andy Robinson, the next Starfield showcase is imminent. So far, we've seen bits and pieces of what looks to be most of the game's features and mechanics. While we haven't seen tons of raw gameplay, we got one really nice long gameplay trailer. What we have seen has given us a good idea of what to expect from the game and what it has to offer. However, I won't be one to complain about more Starfield news, as it's definitely a game that I am looking forward to this year. Hey, I just wanted to check, have you ever heard of a game called Beyond Good and Evil 2? You know, the game that's totally going to get released sometime in the next decade, right? Well, according to a recent report from Kotaku, the record holder for the longest video game development time is undergoing another shakeup. As of last week, it appears the managing director at Ubisoft Montpellier, the studio behind Beyond Good and Evil 2, is no longer with the company. This comes as the studio is currently under a labor investigation by local government authorities. As Kotaku reports, the game has been in development now for over a decade and is apparently still not even in full production, as there are still ongoing decisions being made about the game's creative vision. In an email sent to Kotaku, a Ubisoft spokesperson had this to say: "The health and wellness of our teams is an ongoing priority. Given the length and the development cycle with Beyond Good and Evil 2, the Montpellier development team is undergoing well-being assessments through a third party for preventative measures and to evaluate where additional support may be needed." And honestly, guys, that to me sounds like more news that says, hey, we are absolutely never going to see this game release, but hopefully I'm wrong, we will see. IGN continues to give us more and more news on the next Star Wars game, Jedi Survivor, which I cannot wait for. In an interview with IGN, the game's director Stig Asmussen discussed how his team was already planning Jedi Survivor before the launch of Fallen Order. Well, it sounds like Jedi Survivor won't be the finale, as Asmussen gave us this quote: "I always wanted to see this as a trilogy. How can we take Cal and the crew to new places beyond what we were doing in the first game? I would love to see this series go for a trilogy ending, assuming that the second game is great like the first one. And if that third game does occur, Asmussen has stated he would like it to be built on the Unreal Engine 5, as Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order have been built on Unreal Engine 4. However, Asmussen did say it might pose some difficulty, as he said, quote, "I mean, we have a lot of proprietary things that we've warped the engine into doing for what it does for Jedi right now, and we would have to retool some of that to get it to work on any new engine." Star Wars Jedi Survivor is set to release on April 28th, and I plan on continuing to cover the game here on the channel, as I've already made a video talking about the biggest differences that we're going to see from Fallen Order to Jedi Survivor. If you'd like to check it out, link in the description. If you're looking forward to the upcoming Dead Island 2, they recently showed off around 14 minutes of new gameplay to check out. The gameplay demo was set just a few hours into the game as they controlled the character known as Danny, and worked to get to an evac point in Beverly Hills. The video showed off numerous weapons, attacks, and finishers, as well as some of the ways that the environment can be used to our advantage. One of the most impressive things they showed off was the detailed dismemberment and local damage system in the game. You can hack and slash and even melt your foes in gruesome fashion, some of which I probably can't even include in the video. And it's not just for show. As you damage the enemies in different areas of their body, it actually affects the way that they can attack you and interact with you. The gameplay demo appears to have gotten a warm reception based on what I've seen so far. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, link in the description. And speaking of new releases, Sons of the Forest goes early access and sees big success from its launch. Within the first 24 hours, it saw a peak concurrent player count of nearly 412,000 players, beating out games like GTA 5, Destiny 2, and Skyrim, all at their peak player counts. The game's developer, Night, decided to release the game in early access to avoid further delays and will continually be working on the game, saying, quote, "There is still so much more we want to add. Items, new mechanics, gameplay balance, and more." Now, I have seen some complaints from fans on Twitter and other places saying that there is just simply not enough content, or at least less than they expected given the development time of the game. However, when you're dealing with early access things like this, then it's just kind of what you have to expect. And I hope that they'll stick to their promises. Based on what the Forest ended up being, I feel like they will keep up with these promises and continue to develop the game. And it seems like fans are happy to, wait for the new content. So let me know, have you checked out the game and what do you think? Let's discuss some games that have released this week. Scars Above, the third-person sci-fi shooter, released on February 28th, and it doesn't look good. The game currently sits at a 65 on Metacritic with a 7.2 user score. The game also received a 5 on IGN and a 1 out of 5 on Game Rant. Ouch! The general feel on the game is that it just lacks polish and depth, with Game Rant stating this in their review: "Unless one is really desperate to unlock a bunch of easy achievements, there is no real reason to play Scars Above. It's like a video game rough draft." They continue by saying its budget price of $40 is still asking way too much, even for the most die-hard third-person shooter enthusiasts. So yeah, this is probably one to avoid. Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, the Souls-like action RPG set in feudal China, also released this week, and the game actually looks really good. It's received an 8 out of 10 average across many of the review scores that I've seen so far, 8 out of 10 on IGN and GameSpot, and currently sits at an 81 on Metacritic. Some of the positives include the fun combat elements, the game's spirit gauge helping to add depth to the combat, and the morale rank system encouraging more exploration and risk. Some of the negatives include the lack of enemy variety and performance issues. And speaking of performance issues, let's discuss, because it appears that Wo Long is once again, unfortunately, adding to the list of below par PC gaming ports. The game currently sits at a mostly negative on Steam, with only 37% of the reviews being positive. The performance issues for PC players are running rampant and not only seem to stem from how the game runs, but also issues with the keyboard and mouse controls as well. So if you want to play the game and can choose your platform of choice, the console and controller seem to run just fine. If PC is your only option, then you may want to wait some time before you pick up the game. Or you can try and give it a shot, but you'll definitely want to use a controller, that's for sure. And don't forget, the game is currently available to all Xbox Game Pass subscribers, so there's no reason not to check it out if you have that already. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep up with what's happening in gaming lately, then be sure and subscribe. Also, let me know what I can do to make these videos better and more engaging. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.